What if I told you that the global economy, the system that governs our jobs, our savings, and even the food we eat, works suspiciously like the world's biggest pyramid scheme? A structure where the few at the top benefit endlessly, while the majority below carry the weight. Is this just conspiracy talk, or is there truth buried beneath centuries of banking, debt, and manipulation? Stick around, because by the end of this video, you might never look at money the same way again. Money runs the world. Every transaction, every paycheck, every loan, all of it flows through a system we're told is fair, stable, and essential. But when you peel back the layers, you'll find cracks in the foundation. Endless debt, hidden manipulation, and a structure that rewards the top while trapping the bottom. The question we're asking today is bold. Is the global economy really a giant pyramid scheme? We'll explore how debt is manufactured to keep us paying forever, why money itself is built on trust, not real value, the role of central banks and governments in sustaining the illusion, and how history shows us this system was designed, not accidental. So grab your curiosity, because we're about to uncover the hidden history of money and finance, and why it feels like we're all players in a game we can't win. Let's start with the basics. A pyramid scheme is a structure where money from new participants pays the earlier ones. It requires constant growth, new money coming in, to keep the illusion alive. But eventually, it collapses because there aren't enough people at the bottom to support those at the top. Now, doesn't that sound eerily similar to how our financial system works? Governments borrow endlessly, issuing debt that future generations must repay. Banks create loans out of thin air, charging interest that keeps people chained. To sustain growth, the system requires more workers, more consumers, more debt. It's an endless climb, and most of us are stuck at the bottom, while the elite at the top reap the benefits. Most people believe money has intrinsic value. It doesn't. Modern money is fiat, meaning it only has value because governments say it does, and because people trust it. It's paper and numbers on a screen. Think about it. If trust in the system collapsed tomorrow, your savings, your retirement, even the dollar in your pocket, all of it could vanish like smoke. And yet, this fragile illusion powers the world. Like a pyramid scheme, it requires belief. Without belief, the system falls apart. Here's where the illusion becomes painfully clear. The global economy isn't powered by money, it's powered by debt. Every dollar, euro, yen, or pound in circulation is born as debt. When governments want money, they issue bonds. When banks want profit, they issue loans. And every time a new loan is made, new money comes into existence. But here's the catch. Money created as debt must be repaid with interest. Think about that for a moment. If every dollar must be repaid, with more than was borrowed, where does that extra money come from? The answer is chilling. It comes from creating even more debt. It's a treadmill that never stops, forcing society to run faster and faster just to stay in place. The United States national debt alone has ballooned past $34 trillion, a figure so large that no one truly expects it to ever be repaid. Meanwhile, global debt has crossed $300 trillion. That's more than 3 times the entire world's economic output. And here's the kicker. There's mathematically no way to pay it all back. The only way forward is more borrowing, more printing, more debt stacked on top of debt, a structure that eerily mirrors the endless ladder of a pyramid scheme. Ordinary people feel this trap every day. Credit cards, student loans, mortgages, all designed not to free people, but to keep them tied to the system. You're not encouraged to pay off debt. You're encouraged to manage it, to keep paying interest forever. Debt isn't just a burden. It's the fuel of the entire global system. And the moment people stop borrowing, the pyramid starts to wobble. At the top of this pyramid sit the central banks, the Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, the Bank of Japan, and others. These institutions don't just oversee money, they create it. They decide how much exists, who has access to it, and what it costs to borrow. When the economy slows, they lower interest rates, making debt cheaper. When inflation rises, they raise rates, making debt more expensive. In other words, they control the heartbeat of the financial world. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Central banks aren't neutral referees. They are the architects of the game. Consider 2008. The global economy nearly collapsed because of reckless lending and speculative bubbles. Who was saved? Not ordinary families who lost homes, not small businesses crushed under debt, but the very banks that caused the disaster. Central banks printed trillions of dollars to bail out failing institutions, creating a new bubble in the process. And the cycle continues. Every crisis, from the Great Depression to the pandemic crash of 2020, has been met with the same solution. Print more money, expand more debt, keep the illusion alive. It's not about stability. It's about survival of the pyramid. The people at the top, the bankers and governments, always win. They never lose because the system is designed to protect them. Meanwhile, ordinary people bear the costs: lost jobs, rising prices, shrinking savings. Central banks are the puppet masters, pulling strings that most people don't even see. But the strings are real, and every time they're pulled, the pyramid shifts to keep those at the top firmly in place. To understand today's financial pyramid, we must look backward. History is full of warnings, moments where entire economies collapsed because the illusion of money was stretched too far. Take ancient Rome. For centuries, Roman coins were made of silver and gold, real value. But as the empire grew, emperors needed more money than they had. So they debased the coins, mixing cheaper metals into the gold and silver, reducing their value while pretending they were the same. Over time, trust in Roman money collapsed, inflation soared, and the empire itself crumbled. Or consider the South Sea bubble of the 1700s, when promises of wealth from overseas trade drove investors into a frenzy. At its peak, fortunes were made on illusions, on shares backed by little more than hope. When reality struck, the bubble burst, leaving thousands ruined. Fast forward to 1929, the stock market crash that triggered the Great Depression. Again, it was a system built on illusions, over-leveraged banks, inflated assets, false confidence. When the pyramid collapsed, millions lost everything. And then, 2008. Mortgage-backed securities, derivatives, and reckless lending formed the modern bubble. When it burst, the shockwaves nearly toppled the entire global system. The lesson is clear. Every financial pyramid eventually collapses. The only difference today is scale. The pyramid isn't limited to one empire, one market, or one nation. It's global. Every country, every bank, every citizen is tied into the same fragile structure. And when history repeats, as it always does, the collapse will not be local. It will be everywhere. Every pyramid has winners and losers. So who sits at the top of this one? Central banks, who can create wealth out of nothing. Governments, who borrow endlessly and pass the burden onto future generations. Corporations, who thrive on cheap debt and endless consumer spending. The ultra-wealthy, who own assets, real estate, stocks, businesses, that rise in value as money itself loses purchasing power. Meanwhile, the majority of humanity fights over scraps. Workers trade hours of their lives for wages that barely keep up with inflation. Savers watch their money lose value year after year. And the middle class is squeezed thinner with every crisis. It's no accident. The system is designed this way. The pyramid rewards those who create debt and punishes those who carry it. The rich don't use debt the way you do. They leverage it, turning borrowed money into assets that generate more wealth. Ordinary people? They borrow for survival, to buy homes, to fund education, to cover emergencies. And in doing so, they feed the pyramid. The result is a widening gap. The top grows richer and more powerful, while the base struggles just to hold the weight. In a real pyramid scheme, those at the bottom eventually realize the truth. But in this one, most never do, because the illusion of fairness is so carefully maintained. Here's the uncomfortable question. What happens when the pyramid falls? If a pyramid scheme requires endless growth, what happens when growth stops? We're already seeing the warning signs. The 2008 financial crisis, the 2020 pandemic crash, currency devaluations in places like Argentina, Turkey, and Zimbabwe. Each event exposes the fragility of the system. And yet, the solution is always the same. Expand the pyramid. Print more money. Create more debt. Kick the collapse further down the road. But like every scheme, it cannot last forever. When trust breaks, when people lose faith in money itself, the system will unravel. And the fallout won't just be financial. It will be social, political, even civilizational. Food, energy, housing, healthcare, all depend on stable money. If that foundation cracks, everything built on top of it shakes. Imagine a world where savings evaporate overnight, where currencies collapse, where governments lose control. History shows us it has happened before in smaller ways. But never before has the entire globe been bound together in one fragile pyramid. When it breaks, the shock won't be local. It will be everywhere, all at once. Here's the question that matters. If the system is a pyramid, can you escape it? The truth is, you may not be able to escape entirely, but you can protect yourself. Understanding how the system works is the first step. Knowledge is power. Once you see the pyramid, you stop playing blindly. Diversify your wealth. Don't rely solely on fiat money. Consider assets that hold value: gold, silver, property, or even new forms of money like cryptocurrency. Educate yourself. Learn financial history, because history reveals the future. Every empire, every bubble, every collapse follows patterns. When you see the pattern, you can prepare. Question the system. Don't accept the illusion at face value. Ask who benefits. Ask why the rules are written the way they are. Most importantly, remember this. The pyramid only works if people believe in it. The more people wake up to its reality, the weaker it becomes. You may not be able to tear it down alone, but you can stop feeding it blindly. And in doing so, you take back power that the system was never meant to give you. So, is the global economy really the world's biggest pyramid scheme? From endless debt to central bank manipulation, from historical collapses to the winners and losers of today, the evidence is hard to ignore. The pyramid is real. The only question is, will it collapse in our lifetime? Or will it keep growing until the weight becomes unbearable? If this video opened your eyes, don't let the truth stop here. Hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next deep dive into the hidden history of money and finance. Drop a comment below. Do you think the global economy is a pyramid scheme, or something even more dangerous? Because the truth isn't just hidden in history, it's hidden in plain sight.